we should be live. What is going on YouTube? I'm joined with Nova. Of course, she was being a little rambunctious before, so taking her so she could say hi. Say hi. She's not gonna say hi. But what is going on, everybody? So today we're gonna be touching on Black Friday sales, or actually we're doing a month-long Black Friday sale. If you haven't checked out the website in the last, 2 weeks now, we've been hosting a new sale every week. So right now we're almost at the end of the second week sale. Yeah, that's right, the sale. So you got two more days, today and tomorrow, to take advantage of this week's sale, which is 20% off the website as far as plants. And then next week it is, or starting Friday, it's 20% off of rock and 25% off, I believe, of a nubes. No, don't eat that. What's your fascination with tags? She loves tags. She's weird. But yeah, so let's see who we have in here. What's going on? Thomas, Chad, Hannibal, Odella Fish Keeper. What's going on? Gabe and Brutal Riot Girl. What's going on, guys? So we're actually live streaming an hour earlier today. Margaret asked if I could go on early, so I said yeah, sure, without a doubt. So we're actually on. Don't eat that. She likes eating tags. She's weird. We actually decided to go live a little bit earlier. So today, outside of the sale announcement that I wanted to make sure you check the website. I did want to go kind of through what we did last week, or the week before that, where I took questions on Instagram because I made a post earlier for people to ask me some questions. So let's see. First time catching your live stream? Well, welcome. Thank you for checking out the live stream. So I have quite a few questions here, and I want to answer them, and then we'll get into some questions from the chat. Hopefully I don't get interrupted by this one, but we shall see. She is very talkative once I get going. So, although she has a tag in her hand, so she should be alright right now. Okay, so let's get into the first question. How do you deal with that pesky green hair algae? That comes from Banana Guy 3 on Instagram. So the green hair algae, typically what I think of is it's kind of like cloudophora algae, and just like a bunched up green mat. And we get it very often in here from a bunch of different aquariums. I think it has to do with flow. Sometimes low flow allows that algae to really kind of harbor. Because I notice in some of the tanks we have downstairs where we have it on a top and bottom system, so the top tank drains into the bottom system. The top tank has a lot of flow because it has the output from the bottom flow with the pond pump in it, so that's sucking water up, pushes it all around the top tank. Yeah, and then it goes down to the bottom tank. The top tank very rarely gets that kind of hair algae, but at the bottom tank there isn't a whole lot of flow, and that actually winds up getting a lot of green hair algae. So I think primarily you're looking at lack of flow causes the green hair algae, and too much light. Can you not eat that? Oh, you're eating that. No, that's not good. Margaret, I need something to keep you entertained. Yeah, okay. What? Okay. Here. Okay, now you don't want it.
What you do?
I took away the tag because she started. You want ice cream?
She shut up real quick.
Yeah. Can you give me the pacifier? Okay, I know babies aren't supposed to have ice cream, but she likes ice cream. She likes food. Right? You like food? No, she's gonna get mad when I take it away. She's gonna eat all your ice cream. Yeah.
Tastes good.
Yeah, she's not letting go.
Yeah, I know.
And it's getting all over her now. She's not letting go.
She can have it. You can have it.
You can't eat the whole thing. No, no, no. Don't.
She needs a bath anyway. Let her get dirty.
Okay. Alright, I'm gonna pass you to mommy. Since you're getting dirty, let her deal with it.
No, you do well.
Nah, come on, you take her.
She's nice and quiet now. You can talk.
Yeah, but she's gonna make a mess. Okay, whatever. Yeah, but I need my phone, and now I gotta hold this, make sure she doesn't drop it. Yeah.
She got it. Say I got it, Daddy.
Could watch this all day.
I got a YouTube channel now of how Nova eats.
Yeah, how Nova eats. Here, you take her.
Oh my gosh, she's fine.
You know, you go to mommy.
I don't want her up.
Here, take her.
Oh my god. No.
Yeah, you see?
No. Okay, wait, I don't know how to grab her. Hold on.
Take her
You're
just like
fine the
that.
way she is.
Take her just like that.
Oh my god, no, you take it. Oh, no, don't drop it. She's gonna drop it.
Okay, bye. Here. Look at what Daddy's got. Okay. Pacifier in. Should keep her. Prepare for a sugar high, yeah. Exactly. So, back to the topic of the green hair algae. On top of the green hair algae, not only is flow, level of light, but also another way to get rid of it, you do manual removal, but you can also treat with Excel. And, yeah. And water changes definitely help. I saw somebody comment that also, but yes, CChem, Excel, and water changes, or API algae fix will also help. Let's see. So I is King 710 on Instagram asks, I've read a lot about water movement and CO2 and how water movement dissipates CO2. Thoughts? What that's referring to is kind of, you dropped this here. What that's referring to is kind of just the overall process of when water allows oxygen to escape the water and CO2 to be absorbed and vice versa. It happens. What's the word I'm looking for here? Surface tension and surface agitation allows these things to happen. So it's a natural kind of part of any sort of aquarium. And I hope my battery's not dying here because it's looking like it might be dying. Okay, I don't know. All right, we're good now. My battery's weird. So yeah, so surface agitation and all these things allow oxygen exchange to happen and CO2 exchange to happen. So when people say water movement and water movement dissipates CO2, I wouldn't agree with that. I would say that it allows the gases to naturally exchange, but it wouldn't really decrease it. A lot of people speculate that air stones kind of allow the CO2 to be gassed off, and from what I initially believed, I believed that to be true, but after more research, I found out that even though you're oxygenating the water with an air stone, oxygen and CO2 don't work like that. Like, there could still be a saturation of CO2 and a saturation of oxygen. It's not that the environment will become 100% oxygen rich and no CO2 at all. So there's a lot of misconceptions with that. I plan on going more into detail in a future video on that exact topic once I get all my research done on it. But yeah. So the next question comes from the turtle is you, and they ask, how do you figure out light cycle / distance from water to avoid getting algae? That's really a matter of just kind of testing and trying out different things. First things I would start is if it's a basic aquarium light that's on the market, readily available in most stores or on Amazon or something. Usually those you can put right on the aquarium, turn them up to full, and see what happens. If it's a more specialty fixture that are out there, they're very expensive, they do exist. Those I suggest putting on a low setting and working your way up. But when it comes to like the fluval or the Phoenix lights or even a fluorescent light, I would set it 6 hours is where I would start as far as timing goes, but as far as distance from the water, I just lay it on top like how it would normally be mounted, whether it has stand mounts or is hung. Are you resting your head on me? Oh, you cutie. And yeah, so that's very easy to kind of do. It's you don't have to get too crazy with it. Just keep in mind that allow it to go for about a month or so, because usually algae really doesn't just happen overnight. It's probably happening in the background and you don't like see it, like it may be happening under plants or whatever, and then over time it just continues to build and build. and then eventually you have a mess on your hands. So typically when you make small changes to the aquarium, you actually have to give it like a month to actually notice any sort of issues like that. So I would say definitely give it some time when you do that kind of stuff and just see where it goes. And then raise or lower or dim accordingly. Hey, yeah, you got ice cream all over you. The next question comes from, I'm going to butcher this, Omi Kaki. This is how I'm going to put Omi Kayaki. Omi Kayaki, there you go. How to make plants purl. So for all those that don't know what purling is where a plant releases oxygen off of its leaves. A lot of people indicate it's a sign of healthy plants, but it could just happen randomly. It also happens from damaged leaves, or if you cut like a stem plant or a leaf of, say, a sword plant, you'll see oxygen escaping. That's just the natural process of the plant. Purling can also happen after you do water changes. It's not really something that I would say go out of your way to try and make happen. If it happens, it happens. It's cool, but purling, it's just a kind of it's a more of aesthetics of anything. There is no, like, way to just be like, oh yeah, my plants are purling, they're healthy. That's not the case. Purling just happens. It's a natural process of the plant. Let's see. Alex Bendorf says, do Siamese algae eaters eat dwarf chainsword? Something eating your beautiful carpet. So when it comes to we're going to just simplify this, and is this fish eating this plant? It's very possible that they are. Fish in general, different species may like different plants. Some may not eat any plants except for one particular plant. I know this because I had Bosemani rainbows when I first started keeping planted aquariums. And those Bosemani rainbows, I had gotten in glossostigma, and I got in a lot of glossostigma, yeah. Oh, now you want to talk? Okay. Okay. Yeah, all right. So I gotten in a bunch of glossostigma, and I planted it all individually, one by one, in my 55-gallon tank, thinking that it would fill in and look really cool. Well, turns out the Bosemani rainbows actually like that plant. They eat that plant, but they don't eat really any other plant that I know of. Or at least they like my plants that they were eating them. No, you don't want this? Okay. So yeah, so when it comes to troubleshooting the plants, I would really look to see if they are in fact eating it, or if the plant isn't doing well and they're actually just kind of nibbling along the edges as if they would, and because the plant's not doing well, yeah, because the plant's not doing well, they actually are winding up eating part of it. So I would really look at the plant, make sure it's healthy and doing well, to really know for sure. But Siamese algae eaters don't typically eat plants. So Dave's 1024 asks, how do you know if new plants are melting / converting, or if there is something wrong? So that's a good question, because lots of times people don't know really the difference of if a plant's doing well or if they're just melting because they melt. So typically, if you get a new plant and you put it in your aquarium, within the first month, I would say, is when it's going to be melting or converting to your tank conditions. Within, that's my beard. Within 2 weeks, you should see new growth of the plant in your environment, and you'll be able to tell, that it's new growth because it will look slightly different probably from what was there. And that's going to be the new growth that you're looking for. When it comes to identifying if a plant is doing well or not, that really comes through in the kind of plant deficiencies. If all of a sudden the leaves are getting holes or discolored or yellow colored or brown colored, stuff like that. But that's usually after the first month. Are you okay with that? What? Yeah, you're covered in ice cream and stuff, and you're sticky now, and you're making me sticky. There you go. So I would say anything after the first month is usually what is going to constitute as plants not doing well. However, and I say this, however, with a little asterisk here, if you watch my video on the paludarium update and the other tanks around me, the plants in here were in here just fine. I changed it around, and all of a sudden they started to melt. And keep in mind, they were in here for 2 months, 2 to 3 months prior to that, and all of a sudden I changed things so they got messed up. So that's them adapting to whatever they're doing. with, you know, the new tank setup. But also crypts have something, and bulb plants that go through seasonal melt. You got a wet season and a dry season, typically where a lot of these plants come from, specifically crypts and bulb plants. So if you think about it, crypts have this kind of bulky rhizome under the water or under the substrate, and wherever they may grow on shallow riverbeds, the shallow riverbed will dry up, but those rhizomes underneath the sand will still stay wet and moist because it will usually still be moist. It just won't completely dry out, and the leaves will die back and start to grow exposed. What, you getting tired? And the leaves will grow exposed, and then once it floods again, they'll convert back over. So this is kind of like a natural process that is inside of the plant that will just kind of happen. Now you're getting fidgety? Now you're getting fidgety? Where are you going? Where are you going? So that just kind of happens naturally. So when you put the plant in the aquarium, and it's not true for all crypts and bulb plants, but most of them, when you put it in the aquarium and it doesn't have a dry season, it's still naturally ingrained in its DNA to have that. So it's like seasonal type things, like how birds migrate south in the winter. The same thing that happens to the plants. They know when the dry season's supposed to be here. Sometimes there could be drops in temperatures, humidity, that kind of stuff. I mean, underwater it's a little bit different, but even just the slight drop in temperature, they'll know that it's the dry season or the wet season based on that. Yeah? Hey, I'm trying to talk here. So that's how you can really tell. And same thing with bulb plants. They go through a dry and wet season as well. So that's why there's the bulb there, because when the wet season ends, the bulb maintains all the necessary information for the plant to regrow in the wet season when it comes back around. So that's just a little on kind of plants melting and whatnot. Logan Bower 3939 says, what liquid fertilizer do you recommend? And that would be obviously my own line, but really any all-in-ones will do. This is it right here. Simple Plug Vital. It's gonna be a little too bright, but Vital X or Vital, what we saw on the website, it's an all-in-one, 1 pump per 10 gallons, 2 to 3 times a week depending on your plant load. Works pretty good. Lots of recommendations from people out there about that. So you just want something that has everything in it. The thing about the single dose bottles that are out there, like the Seachem line, is you gotta buy like 9 of them to equal what's in that one bottle. What? In order to get all the different nutrients. Where are you trying to go to? Yeah. There you go. So yeah, that's fertilizer. Let's see. Dank Tanks wants to know how many, oh, your fingers are sticky. How many water changes a week are you doing, and how much are you changing? So when it comes to, you know, these specific tanks here, I don't actually do any water changes. There isn't any fish in here that I have to worry about. And the plants overall are doing fine. Granted, this tank needs a redo, but that's been on my list of things to do since aquatic experience. And but the tanks downstairs, we typically do water changes about once every 2 weeks, and we'll mainly do about 50%. If we have to, wow, okay, what's wrong? What's wrong? Here, I'll give you the tag, but no, you need to put the pacifier. Pacifier? If you, okay. Okay, somebody's cranky. Okay. Okay, Margaret, can you come get her? She's being cranky. She's being cranky. Okay, alright, say bye-bye. You're gonna go now. Yeah, she's getting cranky. She don't want the pacifier. Okay.
You're sticky.
Yeah, she's sticky all over the place. Okay, so, Nova's gone. But yeah, so we do about 50% water changes downstairs once every 2 weeks or so. Sometimes we go a little bit longer, sometimes we do a little bit less. It really depends on the condition of the water in the tank, and you know, because when we bring in plants, we allow them to melt back in our tank. There's a lot of debris that builds up sometimes, so it really depends, but usually at least once every 2 weeks or so, about 50%. But I don't recommend doing that if you have sensitive fish. I see a lot of people kind of go crazy over cleaning their aquarium. If you have plants in your aquarium, You don't really need to go over the top and clean like wall to wall, do 50% or more water changes every couple days, siphon out the gravel. You really just don't need to do that. With plants, they're your natural filtration. They're going to take care of those things. Typically, I recommend about anywhere between a 15 to 25% water change on a normal planted tank, as long as you're not overfeeding or overstocked, and that's the key. Be understocked, so have a lot less fish than you can actually technically have in the tank, and also don't be feeding 4 times a day, you know, tons of food. If you are one of those people that are heavy-handed with the food and you have a lot of fish that maybe you shouldn't have in the tank, then you definitely have to stay on top of your water changes. But that all comes down to how many plants you have, or how much plants you have, and what kind of fish and how often you're feeding and all that. So let's see. Uptown Girl says best plants for beginners. Well, I mean, there's a large variety. I would say about 90% or more of what we have on the website are easy for the most part. Some of the best plants for beginners are going to be nubes, Java ferns, crypts, and swords just in general. Stem plants are good too, but certain stem plants can be a little picky, so it really depends on the stem plant, but you can't go wrong with the nubes and Java fern and crypts. They are very hardy plants, and you know, you could definitely do good with those for beginners. And then Uptown Girls also asks, best, cheapest CO2 system for beginners. For beginners, if you're just coming into planted aquariums and you're just dipping your toe in to try and figure out plants, I don't recommend CO2. Don't even bother. It's not worth it because you're going to have more issues than not with CO2. With that said, if you're experienced and you know what you're doing and you really want to take it to the next level, by all means, go to CO2. You'll definitely have fun. Just keep in mind it can kill fish. It will create more problems with algae, and there's a higher learning curve to it. As far as systems, I don't recommend the DIY method. I found that within the first month of me trying the DIY method, I just went straight to a system, and it really isn't that much more expensive in the grand scheme of things, because you'll quickly have more problems with the DIY method than you would an actual CO2 system. It's a little bit more of an upfront cost, but long term it's very cheap. So the 20-pound CO2 canisters that I use, and I'm actually not even using any CO2 right now in any of these tanks, specifically for a video, because I want to show like that this tank is doing really well without CO2, and just kind of show, you know, that it's possible to grow plants without CO2. But recharging a 20-pound canister is $20, and if you have one aquarium, a 20-pound cylinder will last you more than a year probably. Granted, you don't need to get a 20-pounder. You could go with a 5-pounder or a paintball canister, and that would be a lot cheaper. Regulators, you could look online. There's some good ones on Amazon. I bought the Aquatech ones, are pretty good. This one was like a $60 one from Amazon, pretty cheap. I don't remember the exact brand, but just look them up. I wouldn't pay more than like $100 for a regulator. Get the can or the tank through a third party, like on Facebook or Letgo or Craigslist. People from welding supplies or beverage places are selling these things dirt cheap, so you could get them at a really good discount. So I would say up front you shouldn't spend any more than $150 on a good CO2 system. If you spend any more than that, you're probably overdoing it. So that's CO2 systems. Let's see what else. We got a couple more questions, and then we'll take some from the chat. Can rikiya grow with medium light and ferts? No CO2 injection. It could grow in low light, and it really doesn't need ferts. But CO2 injection is a bit tricky. So I've had a problem getting rid of rikiya in the tanks, and I noticed when there isn't a lot of CO2, it dies back a lot. But it could be like at the bottom of the tank and barely getting any light and still grow as long as it had CO2. Now, I haven't really put it through the test to just turn off CO2 and see if it dies back, because I have plants in there that I don't want to die back also. So yeah, I would say it could probably grow without CO2 with medium light and ferts, but just know rikiya is a pain in the butt and you won't get rid of it. And that was from If Only Aquatics. Aquascaping 101 says, how many and what type of bucephalandrid species do you have? If you're meaning to sell, I got a bunch of them. I don't know all of them. I mean, I got like 3 or 4 different kinds in this tank alone. Do I have boost anywhere else? I think I have a boost in here somewhere. Don't know where it is, but I have an unlimited amount of boosts. I even have some in my own private collection. They're all labeled with little plant tags just so I know which ones are what. But thank you for the question. Baja Biasoda, I think is how you say that. What do you think is the hardest plant to grow? In my personal opinion, my kind of unicorn would be Ludwigii white. It has been Ludwigii white and Ero Satakama or something like that. The Ero likes really soft water, and the Ludwigii white is just a pain in the butt for me. Both of which I have not been able to grow successfully. I've tried multiple times. Spent a lot of money trying to do so, and still no luck. So those are the 2 hardest for my particular setup. But, I mean, I know people that grow them with ease because their water is properly set for that. And then we got 2 more questions. Joe Clark 22 says, can shrimp and gouramis go together? I don't recommend, if you're trying to breed Neocaridina or Caridina shrimp in a tank with any sort of fish, your best bet is do not put fish in that tank if you're trying to breed them. Like if you're trying to get a colony to grow to profit, don't put them in together. Now if you're talking Amano shrimp, as long as the Amano shrimp are bigger than the gourami's mouth, they should be fine. But the gourami could still go after it. At the end of the day, shrimp are below on the food chain, whereas gouramis and other type of fish are higher in the food chain, and they will eventually try and eat those shrimp at some point. If you keep them well fed, probably less often than not. But if you're trying to breed any kind of shrimp, I wouldn't recommend putting them with fish. I have not like directly tested it, but I will tell you the tank with the blue bolts that I have and the tank with the yellow goldenback shrimp that have fish in it, while I did see babies coming from the yellowbacks, I saw a lot bigger population from the blue bolts because the blue bolts have no predators in the tank, and the yellow Gardenia goldenbacks that have, or are they Gardenia or Neos? I forget which one they are, but they have a large variety of predators, and their numbers were not as big. So I will definitely tell you that I wouldn't mix shrimp if you're trying to breed them. If you really don't care, which is kind of cruel, but if you just want to put shrimp in there to have shrimp, then it really won't matter all that much, but don't expect to have a huge population. The why can't I say this? Chivalrous trickster. There we go. What's the quickest way to carpet a tank without CO2 or highlighting? There is really no quick way to carpet out a tank in that manner. The 2 things though that you could do to try and achieve a carpet faster is 1, buy a lot of the plant that you want to carpet out with, so more than you think you need, and then spread them out evenly. Don't just plant one bunch of that plant in one spot. Take that bunch, divide it out, usually it's a stem plant or a runner plant, and spread them out as much as possible, which will help you have better coverage long term. And those are really the only 2 ways to get a quick carpet with no CO2 or highlighting. Some plants will grow faster than others. Just keep that in mind. So it really just depends. But that's kind of what you got. All right. So those are all the questions from Instagram. Thank you for all the questions that you guys submitted on Instagram. Let's go through the chat here. I see quite a bit of people talking. We'll get to all the questions hopefully. I'm still experiencing a little sickness. I think last time I streamed I was sick too. So let's see. Thomas Perkins says, my power head keeps falling off the glass and blasting the substrate. How important is it having current in a planted aquarium? Well, current is important because you want distribution of nutrients in the water. You want water flowing between the plants. Oftentimes when there's stagnant water, that's not good. You want some sort of current. I would say though that if you have a filter, some sort of filter with a decent amount of flow, it should be fine. the power head may not need to be needed, but having some sort of flow is important. I have seen people do no flow tanks, obviously like no tech, low tech, wall stab method, whatever you want to call it. And it's completely possible. It's just going to require a bit more attention. But I noticed when I have a decent amount of flow, not too much where it's just pushing stuff over, but having a good amount of circulation where the water is turning around and around and around, and also some surface agitation, you'll get really good results from that. So it is somewhat important, but you don't need like a ton of flow. What's up, Adrian? Gabe-mon says, who doesn't like food? Yeah, I know. She loves food. We have these little dinner pouches, or not dinner pouches, but little meal pouches that they make for the babies. You know, like they still have the jars and whatever, but now they have these pouches. She literally just takes the pouch and sucks it down like a bottle, and it's gone in 2 seconds. Like, it's gone. And she cries when she finishes the first one, so she gets a second one. I'm probably overfeeding her, but she's hungry. She's a growing girl. She needs her nutrients. So, and Leslie's fish room said she had to go to work, so good night. I know that was a while ago, but if you're watching this afterward, Leslie, thanks for hanging out. What's up, Jason Smith? How's it going? 53 Big Back says, I bought 3 bags of Java moss from my local Cubs auction, and the next day it all turned brown. Any suggestions? If it turned brown, it's probably going to be alright. It'll still grow new fronds over time. It's going to take a very long time, but you put it in there and just leave it in your aquarium. It'll eventually grow green, green fronds coming out. As long as it's not black. Once a moss turns black, usually odds are it won't grow new fronds from it, but there's always a chance. So I would just say leave it in the aquarium and let it do its things. With that said, I'm not a fan of Java moss because it does get everywhere. That's one thing I know a lot of people recommend. Get Java moss, super easy plant. And while it is true, it's a super easy plant. Mosses in general are super easy plants. And Java moss just gets everywhere. It's like having a bad hair day. It's not good for aquascaping. It's not good for anything really other than breeding fish. And I don't recommend it for most people because it just gets everywhere. And a lot of people say, oh, well, that's not a problem. I'm like, oh, you say that now. Wait till you have Java moss everywhere and can't get rid of it because it's just growing everywhere. And then it gets sucked up into the filter and can clog your intake and all that stuff. So I try and steer clear of Java moss. What's up, Shrimp Life? Bracken says, any plants that will be immune to plant eaters? I have nubes, crypts, and vels, but stem plants tend to get eaten by my Aurelius barbs, I think is how you pronounce that. Really, what you named, nubes, crypts, and vels, swords, Bulbitis, Bucephalandra, those are what you want to stay with. Stem plants are easily eaten. They have small leaves. They're usually fragile. And you'll want to kind of stay away from stems when it comes to fish that like to pick at plants or eat plants. Will plant fertilizer kill fry? Usually not if used in recommended dosages. If you're overdoing it, you probably will wind up killing them if you pour the whole bottle in or whatnot. So just use as recommended and you should be right. iFling says, is the fertilizer shrimp safe? So our fertilizer is shrimp safe as long as you don't overdo it. The same thing with the fry. We do sell Thrive S, which is 100% shrimp safe. It's basically a watered down version of our Vital formula. So if you use Vital in a shrimp tank, it's completely fine. But I would say just do half the dosage, and that way you're guaranteed to not have any issues, because that's about the equivalency of Thrive S and Vital is just 2 times more concentrated, maybe slightly more than regular Thrive S. And that way you get the same effect, but essentially have more because it's more concentrated. So that's what I tell people. But if you really just want to go with Thrive S, works completely fine as well. We sell Thrive S as well on the website. Life with Pets is in the house, and she said, wow, Nova is really growing up. She's adorable. Thank you so much, Sheila. Yeah, she is. All I want to do is, like, watch her. And not, like, to just, like, keep an eye on her, but, like, just watch what she does, because she's so fascinating. Like, every day it's, like, something new she's learning, and it's great. She's now, like, pulling herself up on her crib and like on the ottoman that we have, and she's standing up on her own, but not like holding herself up. She's, you know, holding on to something, but it's so adorable to watch and makes me almost want another one, but that's probably not gonna happen. What's up, learning to fish? How's it going? Emilio says, still alive? Yes, we are. Man, how long does that tank need to be blacked out for? Oh, David, you know what it is? I haven't opened it probably in like 2 weeks. It's I could probably open it up and start doing what I want to do. I've been so uninspired to do what I want to do with it. It's just, I don't know. It's like it's taunting me. It's sitting there. It's like, you know, saying mean things, and I want to do it. My other thing is I need to get risers for the light to raise it up so I can do what I want to do, because what I want to do inside the tank is coming up out of the water, and that's going to require me to raise the light up. So I need to actually get in contact with somebody that makes these risers and see if I can get a pair. But I also have the other tank in the living room, the giant dragonstone escape. I don't know if anybody follows me on Instagram, but I posted up. I'm selling that for $150 if you're local to us, because I'm completely uninspired by it. Want it gone, and $150 I think is a really good price for it. So yeah. Bracken, okay, yeah. Thanks, Lipo Pets, for linking the fertilizer. I don't water change my shrimp tank at all. Yeah, I don't water change my shrimp tank at all either. I just top off. I've never gravel vac, as I haven't ever had gravel. Always go with sand or aqua soil. Yeah, but even then, people kind of gravel vac those, and if you have plants, I wouldn't. Ben Shaw says, hey, I find your channel to be super helpful and enjoyable. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for checking us out, and definitely appreciate the support. And if you subscribed and liked and share all of our stuff, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm here to try and be helpful and, you know, be educational, but also entertaining at the same time. That's why I'm kind of, you know, we did all these builds. They're all pretty much done. You know, we have to do some updates on a couple of things, do some tweaks, but now I'm really trying to dive deep into the educational stuff so I could spread the knowledge of the plants that I have in my hair. I'm not having a good hair day. Keep in mind, my office at work, at my normal day job, it's freezing, so I have my hood on all day, so my hair is all messed up. David says you can get them on Wish and Geek as well. I'm guessing you mean CO2 tanks. Probably can. What's up, Xavier? Jenny, how's it going? When would you have more pink flamingos? I'm trying to get more in. I think, Steven, you were one of the persons that ordered them, but we ran out. So the problem with the pink flamingo crypts and all those tissue cultures that are somewhat rare is that they're coming from a supplier who actually, it's one of the suppliers that supplies like Petco and PetSmart with tissue cultures, and they started developing these tissue cultures of these rare plants, but they didn't realize the demand that there is for them. So I ordered literally 30 bags of pink flamingo crypts on my last order, because the first order I did, I placed 10, and I was like, all right, let's see how these sell. They sold out within 3 hours, so I ordered 30. Those sold out within, I would say, a week. And then I haven't been able to order any more because the company that produces the tissue cultures didn't have enough backlog of them. So they're like, you know, a couple weeks before I can even order again. So I'm hoping that they become available here very shortly. I would guess that I haven't seen them in the last 3 weeks probably on my order sheet, so they probably are coming up here in the next week or so. Does Gibba come from nowhere? Found it a while ago. Haven't gotten new plants in some time. The problem is if one of those little bladders come into your tank from Gibba, it will just it's basically like a seed, planting a seed. All of a sudden you got that, and that's it. And then you just have to go nuts trying to get rid of it. So it's tough. I keep snails with my shrimp. Yeah, snails are good. Hype Boost. I like that name, Hype Boost. Almost like Hype Beast, but Hype Boost. Help, what's the difference between Rotala SP Red and Rotala Colorada? Really just the coloration. Colorada, I believe, will probably be more of a orangey pink. SP Red will be red. What's your favorite plants for Gardenia Lime? Top 5 that you would use in an aquascape? Well, what is that, Devon? That's actually a future video topic that I'm going to do, is what are like the best plants for shrimp, but definitely moss. Love moss. Water Sprite Lace, another really good one. I recently did a video devoted to Water Sprite Lace, so I would say check that out. Very good plant for it. Anything with dense foliage, so giant hairgrass, dwarf hairgrass. When you have a lot of something, it really allows the shrimp to kind of fill in and graze in those areas. Smaller leaf stem plants, so like rotalas, like this is Rotala Vietnam or Rotala Ludwigii. These are very thin leaves, and there's a lot of grazing area for the shrimp to graze on. So they like that. And also, as it forms a bigger bush, you know, you trim and continuously replant. They have a lot of hiding areas. They like that. What else? Moss, Crypts, or no, moss. What else to say? Madagascar lace would be a really good one, because those have, as they get bigger, they have little, all these little holes. But if you have a big tank, Madagascar lace might be too big for it. So, Ben Shaw says, regarding the power heads, if your suction cups are malfunctioning, try placing them in hot water to revitalize them. Works in most cases. That's actually a good idea. What are your favorite... no, I did that one. Oh, wait. Same thing. Through your budget shrimp aquascape. Yeah, pretty much what I named would be good. So the thing with Rotala species, they're all very similar plants. It just comes down to coloration and how leaves form and size and shape. But if you don't know specifically what type you have, once they get mixed together, it's going to be really hard to tell them apart in most cases. So when it comes to Rotalas, I try and like stick to one or two kinds that are completely different. That way they don't get mixed up easily. Janine Christie says, love your channel, thank you. I learned so much from you. Question, my lacy Java fern has developed small black holes in the leaves and the tips are turning black. What am I doing wrong? Nothing. That's actually the complete normal process of the plant adapting to your water and turning into adapting into your aquarium. I would say just leave it be. You'll eventually see little baby plants popping up on the leaves, and or you'll see baby plant or new leaves popping up from the rhizome of that plant. What do you got? My dog. So I would say just leave it. You're not doing anything wrong. Just give it time. Be patient. Plants do adapt. If you haven't checked out some of my videos on I think it's the biggest tip for new plants, or the biggest tip for new planted aquarium people, check that out. And also how to deal with melting plants, check that out as well. Trouble with staghorn algae in my 40 breeder with a fluval 3.0. Would raising it help? Staghorn is a pain in the butt. I actually found that staghorn likes a lot of flow. So if you have, it's most likely too much flow, depending on where it's growing. If it's growing in the direct path of your output to your filter, I would consider trying to figure out a way to decrease the flow and try that. If it's not, then it may be too long of a photo period, and I see Brackman actually replied to that. So I would make sure you have your light between 6 and 8 hours is the ideal lighting for just growing plants and not crazy amounts of algae. Guppy Granny says, my nubes are growing very pale and green. What would cause this? Probably lack of nutrients, actually, or light. But it's most likely nutrients if they're pale. They're probably not getting enough nitrogen or enough iron. Iron actually makes plants green. A lot of people think iron makes plants red, and that's not actually the case. Iron helps to encourage chlorophyll to be produced, and therefore it encourages greenness. So if you are looking to get your plants even greener, add iron. Or just get an all-in-one fertilizer like we sell. But I would say it's probably the nutrients. It sounds like it's nutrients. Hello, can I use an Aquarium T5 tube in a standard strip plate fitting? Thank you. Yeah, you should be able to, as long as the rating on the fixture is suitable for that type of fixture, or that type of bulb. I think I may have added too much clay in my dirt before capping it. I have no idea how to fix that, though. You kind of just have to let it do its thing, Ryan. The more plants you add, the less ability algae will have to grow. I'm doing water changes as I watch this. Nice. Will Margaret ever join you on another live stream again? I don't know if she wants to. She's more than welcome to. So. Nice AirPods. Yeah, the AirPods are just great. I love the AirPods. It actually, I connected to the computer when I'm testing the audio, because we had that issue like 3 streams ago where my mic got screwed up and there was like this weird humming noise. So now I put the, I could like hear myself in here to double check it and make sure it's working properly. Are you going to do a plant package for the nano aquariums? Well, I mean, we have the mystery bag, the mystery box on the website, and that you could just, we have sizes there for small, nano, or what is it, nano, medium, and large. So you could just choose your option there, and that's what we have. So yeah, that's what I would say, just check those out. We definitely have the packages there. Which twin starlight would be best for a 20-gallon tank? Is it the long or is it the tall? Because that will definitely influence what you could get. But with that said, see, twin starlights are when you have a rimmed tank. If you're talking about having a rimmed tank, right, like a typical Aquarium from like Petco or whatever, that rim encroaches on the available space, and twin starlights aren't adjustable. They're set for one size only. So what you would want to really do is measure the gap in between the two sides in millimeters, because that's what I believe the twin starlights are measured in, and then I would size them up accordingly, because even if it's off by, I would say if it's off by more than, really don't have much play in these, like literally this much, I would say like 1/8 of an inch. If it's off by 1/8 of an inch or more, it's not going to fit properly. So Twin Red Dragons Brewery says, can I use potting compost with a topping of sand or gravel in a planted tank? You certainly could. I don't recommend using potting soil or potting compost, just because there's better alternatives out there and they're not that much more expensive. We're now selling the contra soil that we put on here. It's relatively cheap and you don't need a ton of it to do good with. So I personally would advise not to, but if you needed to and that's what you wanted to, you definitely could. Can I ask about the DIY Wabikusa? Was it a success? Yeah, actually the Wabikusas have been doing pretty dang good. All of them but one. So I would say out of 5, 4 have been doing good. I actually took one out of the tank to put in something else to see how it grows for a future update. So yeah, the Wabikusas have been doing great. definitely recommend them. If anybody hasn't tried it, try making a wabikusa. They're awesome. What's up, Baron and Guy? How's it going? How do you stop Ludwigii stems from rotting when they are planted? There's a lot of different factors there. For one, when you first get in Ludwigii, if it comes from us, odds are the bottoms of the stems were grown above the water, and the top of the stems have been converted in our tanks, so the bottom stems are always going to rot out anyway when you plant them. Secondly, when you plant them, you want to separate the stems and plant them at least an inch or so apart, and that will allow them to have room. Okay. Getting CNN updates, breaking news. So you want to plant the stems at least an inch apart from each other, and that way they have ample room to grow. But also you want to keep them trimmed. You don't want to allow them to get so long that they form a dense, mass and no light can get down to those bottom leaves. If you can't get light down to those bottom leaves, there's no purpose for them, and therefore the plant starts to rot from the bottom. So make sure you're trimming often, make sure you spread them out, don't plant too densely, and you should probably be alright. Do you think goldfish can eat Java moss? Do you think they can, or should they, or will they? Because they will most certainly eat Java moss. Is it bad for them? Most likely not. And do I think they can? Yes, they definitely can. They will eat literally anything and everything that you put in with them. With that said, there are plants that you can put in there that they won't bother, like a nubes and Java ferns. Plants with bigger leaves and stuff like that should do just fine. How do you propagate Ludwigii? Well, that's actually very easy. You literally just cut the tops. So I usually, let's say you have a 6-inch stem, I would take it at the 3-inch mark, cut it there, replant the top, and you could either keep the bottom or toss it. Shrimp Life Picks actually just sent a question. What's your all-time favorite plant for low-tech plants or low-tech tanks? That would be a Nubus Nano Petite. Joe says, how do you quarantine new plants before adding to the tank chemically? And greetings from Scotland. What's going on? So I personally don't quarantine plants at all. It's actually not a good idea to do so. I would definitely recommend you should at least quarantine or dip acclimate them or dip them before you put them in the aquarium to ensure you don't get any pests and visually inspect. However, I deal with the consequences of doing that. So typically my steps are, and I think I've done a video on this, you take the plants, get like a little bucket of water that like is, you can clearly see anything. Put the plants in there little by little to see if you could like spot anything, maybe snail eggs, feel around, see if anything feels gooey or mushy or anything like that. Look for algae, look for anything, but what you want to do is you want to submerge them in some sort of water so you can see the leaves spread out. Hey, go. Dogs, go. So the leaves can spread out and you can see what's going on with them. And then after you do the visual inspection, you can do a process of either bleach dipping, you could use alum, you could use potassium permanganate. What else is there? Some people do salt dips, although I don't recommend salt dips. That could really kill the plant. And yeah, so you can do those steps if you want. I just throw plants in there and see what happens. I mean, I do like a visual inspection usually just to ensure like that I can, if there's something major, I'll like see what's going on. But for the most part, it shouldn't be a big issue. Unless you're really paranoid about like snails or other things, then I would say definitely do your dips. Come here. Come on. Okay. We got a few more questions, and then it's going to be time to go. Let's see. My tank is a 40-gallon breeder, high-tech, running Phoenix 24/7 in future plant to plus, ejected CO2, 78 degrees, 78 GH, 4 DKH, looking for a green stem plant to plant next to AR Lilacina. Any suggestions? Yes. Let's see. 40, what was that? 40 gallon breeder? 40 gallon breeder. I'd have to see the scape, but there's a Limbnorigosso, which is a nice green stem plant, really bright neon, light neon green color. Looks really nice. Hardy plant. I like Gardenia, even though that's not really a really difficult plant to grow, but it's a nice smaller leaved. Would look really good. The Limno would be very similar to the AR. It's got broad leaves. Looks really good. What else? I'm trying to think, what did I recently get in that looks really cool? If you, well, you want stem plants. I was going to say the Taiwan plant that I have, the knife 40s or whatever it is a really nice plant, but it's not technically a stem plant. Very similar. But yeah. Robo says, I just actually got a 55 gallon. I was thinking of doing Wabikusen from doing it before. Do you have any recommendations on what you would do differently from your video? No, actually, everything that I did in the video was exactly what I would do. Everything's worked out great with it. Just keep it, if you're going to completely submerge it, that should be fine. If you're going to try and grow it up and out of the water, just keep an eye for mold that may form, but other than that, should be fine. What's up, Wicked Tanks? What's your thoughts on recycling soil for a rescape? If it comes from your aquarium, you could definitely do it. If you, however, like if you're using like aqua soil does dissolve over time. There will be like a dusty kind of mess left behind. Just keep that in mind when you're reusing it. It'll probably get kicked up, but eventually it'll subside. Would you recommend in a shrimp tank using Alternia renaki or in water wisteria, Java moss, and merino moss balls and some nubes in a 10 gallon? What would you recommend for hardscape, like spiderwood and whetstone? So yeah, all those would be completely fine. The water spray or water wisteria, I'm sorry, may get a little too big. You may want to look into, I would say water spray for that, because water spray is similar to water wisteria, but it's not going to grow. I mean, it will grow big over time, but water wisteria really grows out of control. So that's one thing. And then what would I recommend? Spiderwood, definitely. Spiderwood has a lot of twists and turns and has a lot of nooks and crannies for the shrimp, so definitely a good idea. And whetstone, I would Dragonstone. Definitely, I saw Wicked recommends Dragonstone. Dragonstone has a lot of holes as well. The shrimp will love it. It'll grow bacterias and biofilm for them to eat, and they'll love it. So, yeah. I think that's about it, guys. That's pretty much all the questions we have. I am going to be heading off. It's been the hour. Just want to remind everybody of the Black Friday sale on the website. If you want to check it out, keep in mind it's going to the end of the month. There's several different sales, so take advantage of it while you can. Thank you so much for checking us out. As always, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I hope to see you guys 2 weeks from now. So not Thanksgiving week, but the following week. I hope all of you, well, actually, maybe we'll do a special live stream. Not sure. Where do you recommend getting Dragonstone? We have Dragonstone, although right now I only have large pieces, but if you order it, I can break it up before we ship because, obviously. And yeah, so if I don't see you before Thanksgiving, have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Have a happy and safe Black Friday. Don't get trampled waiting in line for a TV. It's just not worth it. And yeah, we have Dragonstone on the website. So... alright guys, I'll see you next time, and enjoy the holiday, and yeah. See you later.